Hello, everybody. So, we are going to talk about the subject of acting your wage and why it's important. So, right out of the gate, we have to pay attention to the different kinds of management structures. Now, I know right off the bat, you're going to say management is incompetent, sucks, terrible, bad at their jobs. Eh, some are, some aren't, and honestly, it depends on the circumstances. All right. So, right from the top, you have to act your wage primarily because even though you want things to change, even though you see legitimate room for improvement, there are certain managers who will see you as an immediate threat because you are either one, doing a better job than they are, two, you risk upsetting the balance because the reality is innovation has mostly benefited a very select group of people, generally the ownership class. So management, even if you have a good idea, it isn't necessarily a smart... It's difficult to put into words. If you were to change a process and become more efficient, then the ownership class is going to expect that new level of capability from management to persist over the long term versus keeping that upgrade in your pocket. So later on, if maybe you have half the workforce all of a sudden, and you still have to do the same amount of work in order to meet your metrics, guidelines, requirements, whatever it may be, you save it in the back pocket so you can whip it out then. So hopefully as a manager, you can keep your job and maintain the jobs of the people who directly report to you. There's a balance. There's a harsh balance because the reality is if you find a better way to do things, first and foremost, chances are, even if it makes complete sense, corporate's going to have a problem with it. All right, this is assuming you work a corporate job. Corporate will have a problem with it. Even something simple, can trigger a disaster. All right. When it comes to management and supervisors, a long time ago, for instance, I worked at a long time ago, I worked at an home improvement chain. All right. I won't say particularly which big color store I worked for, but I can tell you this. There was a massive, and I mean massive, oversupply of vacuum cleaners. And at the time, it was part of my job to deal with those. We ended up with so many excess units that there was one end cap display that really was not being used for anything in particular. So I had the thought, because I knew how to print up labels, go into the system, do all that. So I thought, all right, wouldn't it be a great idea to take this otherwise unused end cap and turn it into a quick display to hopefully get a bunch of the vacuum cleaners out. Now, given I did not have the authority to change the prices, so I may have printed up clearance tags to create the appearance as though it would be a discount or a significant savings, given I am the devil. Regardless, it wasn't the clearance tags that ended up being a problem. What ended up being a problem is corporate decides the exact layouts and they have to stick to their plan. All right, they'll call their plan something catch-worthy, hopefully, but they do not allow any modification, even if it makes sense, even if it would make complete sense to clear out enough vacuum cleaners for the next 3 years by just getting them down there, because the existing display for them was relatively small and, of course, overstocked. Something as simple as that can create massive problems for management all up the line, because then you're not, in their eyes, you're not helping the company to get rid of excess supply. You are not aiding the company at all. You are directly being disobedient. And something like that could have gotten my manager, his underling, supervisor, and 3 managers up the chain chewed out and possibly burnt for it, for something that small. We were not even allowed to change light bulbs at that place because of the insurance aspect. The way corporate operates is, if they tell you and your coworkers to walk off of a cliff, they fully expect you to dutifully walk off of the cliff without question. Because if something as simple as that, if sales increase, if a display moves, if any major or minor change happens, and it turns out to be more productive or effective, somebody somewhere is going to get yelled at for it and probably fired for it. And the secret is most of the management structure throughout every level of corporate America, they are just desperately trying to hold on to their jobs, because, truth be told, managers don't really do much. They don't do much. They handle paperwork, they handle complaints. Anything goes wrong, they are directly held responsible for it, and then they move down the line, chewing out everybody until it finally gets to whoever caused the issue. You act your wage, and you keep to yourself for the most part. The only time that it becomes, and you, of course, you're risking your own job when you do this, but the only time that you can honestly get out of line is when they are covering up something horrific, or they are if they're covering up something horrific that either has an effect on the wider workforce, or something that gets into the area of corporate criminality. At that point, then you can reasonably start rattling the cage. But even then, chances are they will just try to terminate you, because it is easier to fire somebody than to actually acknowledge their own fuck-ups and mistakes. You should never go too far out of your way for a business or company. Like, for instance, one of the companies that comes to mind, of course, won't throw out names because legal reasons, and, well, haven't worked for them yet, but I can tell you, they might need me in the future. Honestly, they'll probably need me in the future. Need us, I should say. Anyway, there's a solid handful of people who work themselves way too hard. And of course, expectations are always high. And when it comes to employee reviews and reports, it's always needs improvement. Okay, not the best. But there's a solid handful of workers that keep the place I'm thinking of running smoothly and keeping the thing together. And honestly, without them, the company would likely have to eliminate a shift and then take the existing workforce and spread them out to even longer hours. This handful of people regularly pushes themselves too hard to the point that they end up with severe arthritic pain. They got their knees are, there's no nice way to put it without, the emphasis. Their knees are fucked up. They got fucked up hips, and they're not even into their 50s yet. These are people 20s, 30s, 40s. Fucked up backs, fucked up knees, fucked up hips, and the cost of them working as hard as they do is, of course, reflected on more damage to their body, which then causes weaker performance later on in the week or later on in the month. And painkillers can only help somebody, can only help a worker for so long. You can only hide the pain for so much, for so long. Eventually, it comes to a head where you either have to accept that your workers are going to have to work less or work a more relaxed pace, or a lot of companies will just get rid of the worker. Of course, they won't use medical issues as the reason for it. They'll generally try to come up with something else, and given they might just use poor performance as the example, but it's problematic. But a lot of people, a lot of workers who will bust their asses, they will sit there and they will keep doing it, and they will expect to be at least thanked for it. I mean, back in the day, you used to at least get, the pat on the back, pat on the shoulder, pat on the back. Maybe, just maybe, if you worked hard enough, you might get a raise or a promotion, something along those lines. And there's a lot of people who do try to get promotions, but then they see the other side of getting a promotion, and then it's just like, yeah, no, this ain't for me. Because the promotion, in most cases, really means taking on way more responsibilities and getting nowhere near what you should get in terms of a pay bump. Do not go above and beyond for a company, because if you lock up your knee severely and you can't even drive to work, let alone actually make it through a shift, or if your spine is toast and you can't lift more than 5 or 10 pounds anymore, it's a thing. Like, the company's not going to hook you up with a cybernetic spine. It's not going to give you a break and maybe put you on health insurance working less hours. It's not going to pay for a hip replacement. It's not going to do any of that. Your responsibility is to yourself. You go to work to get a paycheck. If you don't own the business, working harder does not benefit you at all. You have to get past the desire to do great or be the best. All right, because there are a lot of people who will absolutely go out of their way to be the best, to try to be the guy that they all turn to. All right, to try to be the key player. You have to get past that. It is a psychological thing. You have to move past it, because you will never receive the amount of appreciation that you deserve for that. All right, at the end of the day, it's not your business. Work your wage. All right. That's pretty much it. Work your wage, act your wage. My bad. My apologies. Act your wage. And with that, that'll be it for me. This has been Michael from Spades Consulting. You guys have a good one. Check out the site, check out the Substack, and you guys have a wonderful day.